Hey guys, welcome back to Photon Photography NJ. I'm Jesse Laval, and today's episode is about the iPad Air 4th Gen outperforming my custom-made Windows desktop. So first thing I want to say to everybody is I am not a big Apple fanboy. I have always used Windows desktops. I've custom built several different desktops for gaming, mainly was when I was actually into building custom desktops. And then as I got into filming and photography, I started transitioning those custom desktops over for editing, which mainly was just me adding more RAM to the system since everything else was working pretty well as far as editing. Now, I use Premiere Pro mostly, especially when it comes to doing, obviously, video editing. And my desktops have always performed very, very well for me. They've always worked great. I've always been able to scrub any footage that I've thrown at it until my R6 came to play. So once I got the R6, my beast strong desktops couldn't handle the footage. Now I've got a 8th gen i7, 32 gigs of RAM. It's liquid cooled, overclocked, and it's got a GTX 1080 with multiple RAID 0 SSDs. So this thing is really high powered. It's got a lot of horsepower behind it, and it couldn't even come close to handling the R6 footage. Now I ended up picking up the iPad Air 4th generation because I wanted something to be able to just edit my photos mobily with. And with my Android devices, when I would transfer using the Canon utility app, it would turn my RAWs into JPEGs, and I can't edit with my JPEGs. With iOS, you're able to wirelessly transfer all of your files over in RAW and then edit in Lightroom, which is exactly what I wanted this tablet for. Super thin, very powerful, great display, everything about it's great, right? Now, what I kind of wanted to see was if I could do light video editing. Now, what was crazy and what I didn't expect was when I threw my R6 footage. Now, that's 4K, 10-bit, all that good stuff, right? C-Log. And I didn't expect it to be able to scrub it because with my desktops, I have to make proxy files. For those of you that don't know what proxy files are, that's basically using your desktop to create other lower resolution files that can be used in place of that, so that way your computer can handle the footage, and then when you go to export it out, it'll revert back to the higher resolution footage and you'll get the good quality, but it makes it so that if your computer can't handle it, you can use proxy files. Now, I don't even know if you can make proxy files with this, but you don't need to, because when I threw my Canon R6 footage on it, it scrubbed it flawlessly, and I could not believe it. I don't know how something this small, this thing, I think is thinner than one of the sticks of RAM inside of my computer. Now, like I said, this thing is overclocked. This is a hyper-threaded i7 8th gen. We've got 6 cores hyper-threaded, right? So we've got 12 logistical cores, way more power, way more horsepower behind this thing. It's huge. It sounds like a Hoover vacuum when it's running. And this thing, which I'm pretty sure there's no fan in it, it's passively cooled, is somehow handling that footage without hiccuping at all. So that shocked me, and it really shows how well optimized things are on iOS. Now, this has the new A14 processor in it, so it's got a 6-core CPU mixed with a 4-core GPU, and then it's got a neural core, or whatever that is, a bunch of fancy words, but whatever it comes to, that processor is somehow, when it comes to video editing, or at least scrubbing H.265 files, it's outperforming my Windows desktop that I spent $2,000 when I built it. Granted, that's a couple years old, but like I said, this thing has handled everything I've thrown at it until the R6 came. Now, some other cool features that come with the iPad Air 4 is the fact that Apple finally decided to ditch the Lightning cable, and they've added the USB-C port. Now, that opens you up to so many different things. I can now use like a normal dongle, any USB-C dongle that I have, and that works flawlessly with the iPad Air 4. Now, I just get any kind of regular dongle. This allows me to now plug in, USB-A ports. I have card readers. I have HDMI outputs, VGI outputs. I have VGA outputs. I have power so that I can actually charge the tablet while I'm hooking it up to all these things. And now I can use regular keyboards. Or you have the option to get the wireless versions of those, since you can hook everything up through Bluetooth. So the ability to hook up all of these devices and not have to worry about the proprietary lightning cable and Apple blocking you from using anything. That's amazing. That's a huge step forward when it comes to using iOS devices. I'm actually able to use my external SSD, my little T7, with the iPad, and I can actually put my footage, my raw R6 footage, on my external drive, and I can edit with LumaFusion flawlessly. Again, no proxy files or anything like that, just flawlessly scrubbing the R6 footage using nothing but this little tablet and my little external drive. Now what's great about that is things get really expensive. You only get two options with this. You get 64 gigabytes or you get 128 gigabytes. Now what's cool is I can go with the cheaper option, right? It was on sale. I got it for $550 and I went with the cheaper 64 gigabyte option, which doesn't matter because now with the USB-C port and the external SSD, I can work right off from this. And again, I can hook up wireless keyboards and mice, and I can be using this thing essentially like a mini laptop. Slides right into my camera bag. I can be sitting in my bird blind out in the wilderness, taking my shots and pulling them right on here and editing video, photos, and uploading right on the fly. And that's just literally amazing. But the really amazing thing is how this is outperforming my desktop when it comes to video editing. I didn't expect that. It's amazing what the A14 processor is able to do, and I'm just literally blown away. So, do I think I could completely replace my editing with my desktop with this iPad? No, I don't think I would completely abandon Premiere Pro. The full-blown version of Premiere Pro is still, I guess, what I'm used to, but it's much more fully featured than LumaFusion on here. Now, take that with a grain of salt because I'm extremely new to editing with LumaFusion, so I'm still exploring and learning what it can do. But if I had to guess, I'm guessing it doesn't quite get as intricate as Premiere Pro does, so even though I do have to make proxies, I would still use my desktop for editing like large projects. But this thing is literally amazing for doing like on-the-fly stuff. I don't think there's going to be anything better. And I don't even think I would really need the Pro. The iPad Air 4 is just literally as powerful as I could ever need it for editing. So what more could you want from it? That being said, I'm going to have to take a serious look at some of the iOS devices like the M1 chip laptops, right? Because if these chips are going to outperform Intel that severely, then it's definitely going to be worth looking at if you're someone like me where I don't game anymore really. What I'm doing with my computers is using them as editors. I use it for mostly video and photo editing now. So if that's your main thing using your computers for, I think probably looking at the M1 laptops or the iMacs that are going to eventually use those chips are probably going to be the way to go in the very near future. Now, I'm going to have to do a lot of research because right now I only see the M1 laptop being offered in 8 gigs and 16 gigs of RAM. Now, I know that the optimization level in the M1 chip is going to be a lot better than using Intel, right? So I know that I don't necessarily need 32 gigs of RAM when I switch over to iOS, maybe. I'm not sure about that. And it's scary as somebody that works on a Windows desktop that consistently sees over 25 gigs of RAM being used when doing large projects. Like, where am I going to hit that wall if I switch over to using iOS devices and using the M1 chips or whatever the next chip comes out that's similar to it? Like, where is that wall going to hit that I need to make sure that I have that amount of RAM? Do I need 32 gigs of RAM? Is it going to be optimized so well that I can rely on 16 or even the minuscule 8 gigs of RAM that I'm seeing on some of these? I know I see people on reviews using them and editing with them flawlessly. The big question is when you put tons and tons of footage and you start doing all kinds of effects, how much RAM is actually needed for large projects that are doing a lot of things? Because there's a big difference between throwing a couple of clips and seeing it edit very well and doing an actual full-blown project and then seeing where your RAM is going to choke you out during that. That being said, guys, I am absolutely in love with the iPad Air 4th generation. This thing is a beautiful device. It's a dream to work with. The screen is beautiful, and it edits R6 footage without having to make proxies. So What more can I say? For $550, something that's going to outperform a $2,000 desktop, there's not a whole lot to complain about, right? Again, guys, if you think that this helped you in any way, please think about going below, subscribing, clicking the notification bell, and I'll see you guys on my next video.